Hey people, welcome back to another episode on my channel, and today we are talking all things Arsenal. Now, this is about a few hours after that 3-2 loss to Manchester United, and it just brings a lot of question as to what the goal is for Arsenal this season. Now, I'm going to be talking from a neutral perspective and what I expect Mikel Arteta to, do with the squad. Now, when you look at Arsenal, you expect them to, one, obviously ensure that they win a title this season. The last time Mikel Arteta and the squad won a title was as far back as 5 years ago, which was an FA Cup. And in the last 5 years, all they've done is finish second about 3 times in a row in the Premier League, lost out in the FA Cup, lost out in the EFL, and even when they tried to push for that Champions League title last season, they eventually lost out, in the semi-finals. And now, this season, Arsenal has the team. They have the squad depth, they have the experienced player, they have Mikel Arteta still in charge, because I don't think if a coach hasn't won a title in about 3 years, 4 years, I don't think you're going to still be there. But what has Arsenal done? They've kept him there. They've kept the faith in him to eventually win that title. And when you look at Arsenal and how well they are performing this season, they're still in the Champions League. They are in the semi-final of the EFL. They are also progressed to the 5th round or the 4th round of the FA Cup. And they are top of the Premier League. And so what do you expect from them? If Mikel Arteta knows what he's doing, trust me when I say it is really, really difficult and literally impossible for you to win 4 titles, especially if you're a team that plays in the Premier League, right? Because I've seen it happen so many times. The worst that a team can do is probably win maybe 3 titles, which we've seen Man City do, which is them maybe winning the Premier League, the FA Cup and the EFL, right? We've seen them do it, which just tells you that it is possible for you to win 3 titles as a team in the Premier League. But it is difficult for you to win 4 titles in the Premier League. And when I say 4 titles, I mean obviously with the Champions League and the league titles and then the Premier League. It's difficult, right? It is really, really difficult. But one thing I would definitely expect from Arsenal going forward, because when you look at Manchester United, and I must say and acknowledge the fact that Manchester United played really well. I think in the last maybe 3-4 years, I would definitely say that that game against Arsenal, winning that game and in the manner that they did, has been one of their best performances in the last 3 years that I have seen. And against a very big team. Yes, I know Manchester United always play very well. They always come up with their A game when it comes to any of the big 6, whether it's Manchester City or Chelsea or Arsenal or Tottenham. Yeah, they always come up and come good against those big teams. But where the problem now stems up for Manchester United is against the smaller team. So them facing Arsenal yesterday, I knew it was going to be a tough game for Arsenal. Looking at the fact that they played Inter Milan in the Champions League midweek, I knew it was going to be tough. Now, don't forget they also drew that game at last weekend against Nottingham Forest. So it was already a trajectory of not really good performances, but somehow getting the result for Arsenal. Now, as I said, I expect Mikel Arteta to, focus on the ones that are possible. Say, for instance, you definitely want to win the Premier League. You're top of the table and you've been there for the longest time this season. It only makes sense for you to want to win the Premier League. The Champions League, I think, is going to be very, very difficult for them to win. And it's because they have good teams like Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich. Forget what Inter Milan is going through right now. They are still there. So it is going to be really, really difficult for Arsenal to win the Champions League. And we saw what happened to Liverpool last season. They were literally in forefront of all the competition. Champions, they were top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League, in the EFL and the FA Cup. And what happened? They lost out of the EFL, lost out of the FA Cup, lost out of the Champions League in the quarterfinals, and all they had was the Premier League. And the reason why they even still had the Premier League was because as at the time they lost out of the Champions League, which was already like February, March, they were already like about 15 points ahead of Arsenal. I think about almost 10 points ahead. So at that point, I don't think there was anyone that could have beaten them to win that Premier League. And obviously this was because the likes of Arsenal, Man City was one of their worst seasons, I must say, because they didn't win any title. Chelsea were also struggling. Aston Villa were having their own problems. Nottingham Forest, that were playing very well at the beginning of the season, kept losing and dropping points, which dropped them outside of even the top 4. So Liverpool had everything in their favor at that time for them to win the title. This time around, a lot of teams are still struggling around Arsenal, but they are somehow, Arsenal themselves are not capitalizing on that to extend the lead. So it's really going to be difficult to see what happens with Arsenal this season. And that is why I am saying that I would prefer them to focus on the Premier League. Try to extend your points in the Premier League, and then maybe you can win either the EFL or the FA Cup. The good thing for them in the EFL is they've already won the first leg of the semi-final against Chelsea. Now, with what Manchester United has done now, all the way going to Emirates, that will give Chelsea the confidence to go to the Emirates and say, we can also beat Arsenal, because obviously it's just one goal difference. So if Chelsea is able to get 1 or 2 quick goals early, they still have a shot to beating Arsenal to the final and probably facing Man City. So Arsenal still has a shot to winning the EFL, and then maybe they can also concentrate on the FA Cup. But that Champions League is going to be really difficult because, as I said, Bayern is going to qualify automatically. They are in the top 8. PSG is in the top 8. Inter Milan are just slightly outside of the top 8. So whatever happens in their final game, which I'll fully talk about in the preview to the final game of the league phase of the Champions League, it doesn't matter. But there are still going to be big teams that are still going to qualify to the round of 16. So it is going to be a tough task for whoever is going to win that Champions League. And that is why I would rather Arsenal faces concentrate fully on the Premier League, the EFL and the FA Cup, right? For them to have any chance of winning a title and not have to lose out on a lot of this tournament the way Liverpool did last season. Because they've been one of the best teams out there, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. It will be really, really and huge disappointing for them to not end up with anything or end up with probably just 1. When they can, looking at how well they are playing right now, maybe win 2. I expect Arsenal to win at least 2 titles this season. And I want definitely the Premier League to be one of them, because you cannot finish second 3 times in a row and still not win the Premier League. It's going to be a huge disappointment for Mikel Arteta. And I think this season is going to be the real turning point to see if Mikel Arteta is still in charge of that team come next season. Because if he doesn't win anything this season, and the funny thing about Arsenal is they are not like Chelsea, they are not like Manchester United, they're not even, I don't think they are like those 2 teams who they sack one coach today and the next coach they bring in wins 1 or 2 titles. They are not. They are a team that believes in, the longevity of a coach. They believe in stability, unlike Chelsea. If Chelsea sacks a coach today, trust me, the next coach they're bringing in, the chances of him winning the title is there. It is absolutely there. So Mikel Arteta is literally on the lifeline right now to ensure that the team wins at least 1 or 2 titles, because they've signed some of the best players out there for Mikel. They've signed him some of the best players. I get that right now maybe Eze is not playing very well, and I think it's because they are not really playing around him. He's not the main guy. When he was at Crystal Palace, he was the main guy, and that was why we saw a lot of him. That was why we saw a lot of impact he had in that Crystal Palace side. But in Arsenal, there's Odegaard, there's Declan Rice, there's what's his name now? Saka, there's Martinelli, there's Noni Madueke, there's a lot of players, Gyökeres, that the the team is literally relying on these other players, so they're not really focusing on him. And that was why I think that him going to Arsenal was going to be a huge disappointment, because I saw this coming. I knew he was going to struggle. If they had gone to another team where they really needed a proper number 10, where he was going to be the vocal, he was going to be the main man, just like Cole Palmer is for Chelsea, it was going to have much more effect in the team than what is having now for Arsenal. A lot of the play is coming in from Saka, and to be honest, I don't think even Saka is performing up to expectation, but Arteta just loves Saka so much that I don't think he can even bench him for a game or 2 games in a row. If he doesn't start, he brings him in as substitute. So the trust and the belief he has in Saka is so much. But I just feel like a lot of the players that they've brought in, Declan Rice, that they've paid a huge sum of money for, Noni Madueke that they spent 50-something million pounds for, Ebereze, Eze, the same thing, Nogard, I can't even mention Odegaard, what's this, Zubimendi, that they brought in. Those guys they brought in are good players, and they deserve a title. And Mikel Arteta has to get. You see, sometimes I feel like winning titles is a mentality on its own. It's a different mentality on its own. If someone had told me that Chelsea were going to go to the final of the FIFA Club World against one of the best teams, Paris Saint-Germain, out there, and beat them out the park like that, I would say no, because the odds were against them. The odds were stacked against them. But because Chelsea has that winning mentality engraved, not just in the team, but in the club, you cannot come to a Chelsea club and not understand what it means to win titles, because you will hear the fans, you will hear ex-players tell you that this team is a team that wins title. When you are coming to Chelsea, you know that you are coming to a team that wins title. So definitely that's already is literally engraved in you. Is engraved in you. So if you're coming to Chelsea, you know that you will hear a lot of these players that they sign, because a lot of people wonder why do they sign for Chelsea. And they tell you that the reason why they sign for Chelsea is because of the fact that they know when they are coming to Chelsea, they are coming to win title. They are coming to a club that understands what it means to win title. Arsenal does not have that. They do not. They do not have Mikel Arteta, that is their coach. I don't know how many titles he won for them while he was a player with Arsenal, but the truth is, even when he was an assistant coach with Pep Guardiola in Man City, he saw the number of times, he saw the work they had to put in to win titles. That is because Pep Guardiola has the mindset of winning titles. He knows what it takes to win titles. That is what I expected Mikel Arteta to have brought to Arsenal. Yes, maybe in the first season he did that with winning the FA Cup. Subsequently after that, what happened? Nothing. And maybe this is down to some of the players who I think also have to take responsibility. This is also down to the coach Mikel Arteta himself, who I also feel like it doesn't, I don't know if it transmits that belief to the players sometimes. Because if as a player you're lacking in confidence, you're lacking in that belief, the coach is there to instill that into you and say, you know what, we have to do it. We have to absolutely do it. If Enzo Maresca, who has left Chelsea now, won 2 titles in his first season, Mikel Arteta does not have an excuse not to win 2 titles this season. Honestly and truly, it doesn't have an excuse. So the question is, what is the goal for Mikel Arteta this season? Because you cannot be fighting on all 4 fronts and say you want to win all of them. Trust me, you will not win any. That is just the truth. Because the chances is, if he gets to the final of the EFL Cup and he plays against Man City, Pep Guardiola is going to beat him. So it will not be down to the Champions League, the Premier League, and the FA Cup. So the FA Cup. So the question is, what is the goal for you? Which 2 titles are you looking to win this season? Don't be greedy and say you want to win 3. Do not be greedy, for Christ's sake. Do not. I hope he understands this and he transmits it to the players, because After that game against Manchester United yesterday, a lot of Arsenal fans will be questioning what the goal is this season. Because if Manchester United could go into that game with the confidence that they had that they could beat Arsenal and do it in the manner in which they did, there's a lot of questions to be asked about Mikel Arteta and Arsenal and what they tend to want to achieve this season. Honestly, that question has to be there. Anyways, guys, share your thoughts in the comment section. If you're an Arsenal fan, what do you expect Mikel Arteta to do this season? Do you see him winning all 4 titles in all 4 competitions that is in right now, or you expect him to, focus on maybe 1 or 2 and try to ensure that they win it? Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Put on your post notification button to get our latest video when they drop. And most definitely follow us on all our social media platforms at _official FSH. Anyways, guys, that's my thought on Arsenal so far this season. Share yours in the comment section. Bye bye, guys.